Hey guys, Yishai Fleischer here on the Mount of Olives, right across from the Temple Mount in Yerushalayim. What an honor and a pleasure it is to be here. What a gift it is to be in the land of Israel, in the state of Israel, and right at this holiday of Shavuot. It's just such an awesome gift to be in this ancient city of Yerushalayim. And Israel just had miracles. You know, we rescued and liberated 4 hostages that had been held for over 7 months, and it was an amazing operation. And in that operation, terrorists who were shooting at our army, trying to keep Jewish hostages in Gaza, were shot and killed. Some reports say it's 200. Other reports say it's 100. Whatever it is, the reason that there were shots fired is because Liberation Rescue Forces were trying to take away our hostages that were taken on October 7th. And so the operation was a success in 2 ways, not just one way. The first success is that we liberated those hostages. And the second one is that terrorists were killed because the people shooting at our army were terrorists. They were not innocent civilians. It wasn't that Israel was shooting at innocent civilians. No innocent civilians would have been shooting at our army. If they were shooting at our army, they were not innocent civilians. They were terrorists and co-conspirators. Some media in the world has gone out of its way to try to blame Israel for this carnage. Instead of understanding, they're blaming the victim, right? Blaming the guy, the party that had its people stolen away from its land, tortured and taken away from their families and homes. They're blaming the victim for responding to terrorism. And so there's a lot of media like that, but not everybody like that. Not everybody's like that. There's James Macpherson out of Sky News in Australia, made an excellent compilation of the sickness of some of the media at blaming Israel for what is the most natural thing, which is to make a rescue operation to return our hostages home. So check out James Macpherson's work here at compiling the folks that have called against Israel's rescuing of the hostages and telling this false narrative. But not everybody in the world is like that. Some people do see it clearly. And of course, here in Jerusalem, across from the Temple Mount, we do see it clearly. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Does Israel have a right to defend itself and to liberate its hostages? Here's James Macpherson at Sky News Australia.
But first, 4 Israeli hostages were freed in a daring rescue at the weekend, leaving leftists around the world heartbroken. I'm serious. While Israel celebrated the rescue of its citizens from the clutches of maniacal terrorists, many around the Western world were upset, even appalled. British newspaper columnist Owen Jones was disgusted that anyone would celebrate Jews being saved from captivity. In a tweet that Pharaoh himself would have approved, Owen said, "This is a grave, grave war crime. Shame on those celebrating it." A lot of people were outraged that civilians imprisoning the hostages were killed in the Israeli raid. Well, here's my contrarian take on the situation. Don't hold Israeli hostages in your apartment. After all, research shows that holding Israeli hostages is tightly correlated with reduced life expectancy. Australian actor Guy Pearce, who will always have a special place in our hearts for his role as Mike Young in Neighbours, tweeted, "I'm pleased hostages are home, but let's not be distracted and forget all about the unnecessary Palestinian deaths." See, this is why you shouldn't drink Hamas Kool-Aid. It makes you stupid. What did Guy Pearce think bring them home meant? Vibes, memes, essays? And what does he mean by don't let the rescue of hostages be a distraction? The rescue of hostages has been the entire point since they were captured 246 days ago. Honestly, I thought of all people, Guy Pearce, starring in a show called Neighbours, would have understood how important it is for Israel to secure its boundaries when living next door to a terrorist camp. Here's how Al Jazeera reported the miraculous rescue of Israeli hostages. Death toll from Nusrat attack rises to 210. Nusrat attack? If you didn't know better, which if you watch Al Jazeera means you wouldn't, you'd assume that evil Israelis just attacked Nusrat for the hell of it. Oh, and it turns out that one of the civilians holding 3 of the hostages captive in his apartment was a journalist who'd written for Al Jazeera. Funny that. While we're on bad media takes, A BBC journalist asked a former Israeli military commander, straight-faced, why the Israelis didn't let Hamas know that they were on their way to save the hostages. You know, so the whole rescue could have been done nicely.
There are reports of women, of children who are among the dead. It is appearing to be a high civilian death toll. Would there have been a warning to those civilians for them to get out on time?
For sure, of course, we cannot anticipate Israel to be warning ahead of a raid to extract or to save hostages, because then what the terrorists would do is to kill the hostages.
Now, I know it's a rough day for the left-leaning media when Jewish hostages are rescued, but they could at least try to contain their disappointment. Speaking of people having a hard time coping, Greens leader Adam Bant tweeted, "We want all hostages released, we want all political prisoners released, and we want to know how the killing of 200 plus Palestinians in last night's attack can be justified." Well, Mr. Bant, Hamas set the price. Let's hope and pray no Australians are ever kidnapped by a rapey terrorist cult, while the Greens have a say on policy. How hard is it to understand that you can't take hostages from their beds, keep them kidnapped for 8 months, and then complain about the rescue operation? We live in a world in which black is white, up is down, and moral clarity is nowhere to be seen. But thank God Noah Agamani, Elmog Miajan, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv are home with their families tonight.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed James Macpherson, Sky News Australia, talking about the liberation of our hostages, making sense out of the nonsense. Do you really think that Jewish people, that Israel should not fight to liberate its people? It's a war out there. And that's what's so important to understand. Hamas started a war. Hamas is going to get that war right on their heads. That's a message that Israel has to send its enemies, which is, if you start with us, we're going to finish it. We have to be tough in the face of aggressors. That's the rules of the Middle East. That's what we have to signal to the jihad, that Israel will never leave, will never be moved. All right, I want to bless you wherever you are. Please write your comments below. Subscribe, be part of my channel, and I bless you here from Jerusalem and from this Chag of Shavuot, the Festival of Weeks, with the receiving of the Torah, receiving of true consciousness for a better world. Shalom.